What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Astro Vibe Show. My name is Malik Harris.
My name is Mackie Totticini.
My name is Demo Vision.
And this is the
Astro Vibe Show.
Where you come to
Vibe with the tribe. That's take it too long.
Sorry. Today we are reacting to the top 5 Warhammer 4K video games, and media. Last video we jumped into the timeline. We looked at a lot of lore stuff. I know there's definitely some errors in there. Just so much information. 50 million notes and things that we were trying to plan out. Yeah, it's insane. We actually went back through there. I think you said you watched it again, the video again, or the beginning half or something.
Beginning and a half.
Yeah. So I'm probably gonna go through that video one more time too, just to double check on everything. But we wanted to jump into like the video games and media before we start checking out more of the actual factions and everything like that, just so we can kind of see the history of media wise, so we kind of are on the same page, or at least kind of have an understanding of what all these things are leading up to just give us a little frame of reference, I guess. So so yeah, here with our guy Bricky again. Hopefully he can guide us to the promised land.
Necrod's evil cousin.
Evil twin brother.
All right, yeah, we're just gonna jump into this and we will talk about it throughout. You know, take pauses and stuff like that, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Out of stock before, have now been brought back in stock,
also
and
got our
overall,
merch on,
there's a whole new site. It's looking
on our memberships as well. Check it out. Slit.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bricky. Currently running from the law for selling 2.4 terabytes of Commander Shadow Sun pornography. And today we are talking Warhammer, not the Warhammer I just explained, and not even the Warhammer on the tabletop, but in fact, Warhammer in media and video games. Two things that you generally don't see a whole lot of. Warhammer video games are not something I would call rare. Good Warhammer video games are more rare than a humble Craft Worlds player. Naturally, Warhammer games are really difficult to translate as video games from the universe. One, because of the insane varying levels of power. Like, how can a civilian take on a guardsman trained since birth, take on a space marine, take on a custodian, take on a tyrannid like tyrannocyte, or just a gigantic tyrannid monster, which then takes on an imperial knight and an emperor class titan and a tyrannid bio titan, and then you get into the insane levels of the fleets and the naval battles, and it's just a whole new level. Having that all come together and fight each other is already ridiculous enough, but then you can't do.
As we're going through this, Mackie, you should point out which one of the games that you played, because we never figured out the exact game. I don't remember. I guess I like to see.
A whole lot with the narrative either, because having different influxes of character motivation doesn't really happen in Warhammer. Everyone is so devout to either their cause, or they just aren't thinking, as in things like Tyranids and Orcs that have only a singular goal. But then you have the Imperium, and when you're in the Imperium, you can't go around being like, you know, maybe chaos ain't that bad. If you're not 100% Emperor's Graces fully zealotous, then you get shot in the head. So having any kind of like fall from grace or character motivations where they kind of go against their government and the masses doesn't really happen. So naturally, unless you're doing some kind of like soldiers and brothers in arms story, or maybe like a detective story, i.e. Eisenhorn kind of books with an Inquisitor, it's kind of hard to make a lot of content for it. So through all that turmoil though, there are some pretty good ones, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to kind of rank, but mainly just discuss the top 5 Warhammer video games, as well as talk about 3 pieces of Warhammer media that I think you should probably check out if you're a fan of it at all, and they come from different backgrounds, so I think it'll be interesting. First off, let's do that Warhammer media part, because that's a lot easier to cover.
I like your hat, by the way.
First up is the Astartes fan film. If you haven't seen Astartes, like, come on.
Fan film?
What are you doing? I'm sure you have, because it's got millions of views, but for that, like, one person down there in the comment section is like, oh, I hadn't seen Astartes. It's like, good, watch it. It's amazing. It's a 5-part little series made by, I think, pretty much one guy. Maybe he has some friends, but I think it's only the one guy. And he made a little fan film about some space marines going and securing some kind of cargo from either some kind of PMC or heretic cultists. I'm thinking it's a PMC. They didn't look fucked up enough. It's not just a simple, like, marines punching elves or punching orcs. It's got a little bit more intrigue to it, and it's a lot more subtle, which I like a lot. It also does a great job at adapting the lore. For a large majority of it, at least in a large majority of games, Space Marines kind of just like walk into battle, doing like a Chad stride, thinking they're so fucking hot shit. When in reality, if you think about a legitimate war zone or something, the Space Marines, while they do look cool walking in, which they do sometimes, they're a lot faster. They run incredibly quickly. They're constantly spoken that nothing that big should run that quick, and they're very tactical. They take positions, they have orders, they have not just bolt guns and giant thunder hammers and stuff. There is the good old Astartes combat knife. And it's nice to see all that stuff represented in a much more, I say realistic, it's Warhammer, but a realistic way. Pretty much all these things will be in the description, so you know, but definitely worth checking out. It's not too long. Go look at it. Secondly, we actually have a Warhammer film. Now, Warhammer movies, there are a couple of them, and unfortunately, they pretty much all suck. Any of the ones that you might think, oh, it was okay. It's not. It's probably just we have none of them, so the fact that we have anything that has like a little bit of effort put into it, you're like, oh, it's all right, when in reality, it's pretty terrible. It's like really big Resident Evil fans that like the Resident Evil movies. Like, they're not good movies, but they can be dumb fun sometimes. I get it. However, the best Warhammer film is not even a Warhammer film. Now, there's a film called Event Horizon. It's in 1997.
Oh, I've seen this. This is a great film. Fuck, I've seen this when I was a kid. I have this on VHS at my mom's house still. That's crazy. I might need to go back and watch that. That's a great fucking film. I didn't even think that it... I'm gonna listen to what he has to say. I didn't even think that it was like this, but that makes a lot of sense, actually, because they go through the Event Horizon. They all get fucking warped mentalities and shit like that. Yeah.
By Paul W.S. Anderson, I believe was the director. Now, speaking of Resident Evil, he directed a lot of the Resident Evil films, as well as I think Alien vs. Predator and a few other things. I don't particularly consider him a fantastic director. I think most of his movies are kind of mediocre. That being said, Event Horizon scratches that perfect Warhammer deep space sci-fi horror itch. If you want to take Dead Space, Alien, and a bit of Warhammer and mash it together, you have Event Horizon. And the whole purpose of the story is it's far future, and there was a ship of the name of the movie, and that ship was in the orbit of Neptune and just disappeared. And then, like 4 years later, it's back. No one knows why. So you're gonna go investigate it. And it is exactly that. It apparently was a big inspiration for the first Dead Space game, and it makes a lot of sense when you do watch the film, but it's very creepy. It's got that awesome part where, you know, not only is there a danger, but you also the danger of space and all the issues that space comes with. It's not perfect. There are some character motivations or character actions in the first third that I really don't like, and the effects don't always hold up, but for a Warhammer film, it is the best non-intentional Warhammer movie you're probably gonna get for many years. And last but not least, we have the Emperor Text-to-Speech series on YouTube. Now, a lot of people asked me when I made my video a bit ago about Warhammer YouTubers why I didn't mention him, mainly because I wanted to save it for this video. The Text-to-Speech series is a very cute concept. It is just a little Warhammer YouTube episode series where the Emperor gets a text-to-speech device implemented into his body, and now he can speak to the Captain General Custodian, nicknamed Kitten, because it turns out all the custodians have turned into a gay orgy because they've been stuck there for so long, which, because of that, provides the rarest thing since fucking Bigfoot. An actually good JoJo meme.
JoJo.
This man big one.
The Dio's boat?
Holy shit. What in the name of terror on fucking roller skates is this?
God bless him, he's done the impossible. It's very cute watching this series because it provides a lot of things. It's obviously a comedy, and it's meant to be, but it's a comedy from someone who actually understands Warhammer lore, and in a sense, it's definitely not something you should take as gospel, but it does have this like over-the-top style for most of the characters. For instance, in this series, you have a whole bunch of Mechanicus guys, and they fuck toasters. Do they actually fuck toasters in the lore? No, but they are.
Hey, comment down below and let us know if you want us to watch it. Let us know if this is worth watching or if there's just so many other more important things we should be watching. Because I don't really know. This universe is so extreme, and I'm so new to it. I'm over here like, he's recommending it. I mean, it's like when Necrit says something, I'm like 80% of me is like, that's probably true. I'll still have my own bias, but that's how I'm treating Bricky right now. Is if he's saying, hey, I'm gonna put it on this list.
Time out. You said his name is what?
Bricky.
My boy Necrit. I thought his name was Bricky.
Bricky.
Necrit, Bricky.
This whole time? No, you're just kidding.
I'm just fucking with
Okay,
you.
I don't know what the fuck's going on. Everyone's saying different things. I'm just getting so lost.
You're getting riled up, bro.
Nah, for sure getting riled up because
Pretty
of this
yes.
shit.
Okay.
I was just joking, by the way. This shit is. I wouldn't watch that.
Hey man, if y'all vote for it, y'all, you know, maybe I'll put like a poll or something like that on Patreon. It'd be lit. Give you guys honest, fair shake.
Slide you $1 if you go vote no.
If you vote, fuck no.
For every no, will be
Also,
1 cent.
before we start, I'm guessing this is before the short film. Yeah, 4 years ago. So this is before the short film. Is the secret level short that they did? Is that the best piece of Warhammer media that you guys would consider now to date, or is there something else that's better? You might talk about it on this list, but I don't know if it doesn't seem like he's putting in order from like first to last or anything like that. So let me know, because right now that fucking secret level short film is pretty dope.
It's legit.
Crazed techno
Yeah.
people. They're insane. Vulcan is a super nice guy who runs around hugging people. Does he do that in the lore? No. But the Salamanders are known to be a much nicer and caring chapter compared to most Space Marines. Magnus is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Loving nerd. Is he actually? No, he's just a fucking nerd. It's wonderful. It is very funny,
won't watch
and I
this
would
one.
highly recommend it. And you do maybe need to slog through the first couple of episodes because they are a
While
bit
you're watching
older
it,
and lower budget. But as
while
time
you're
goes
kinda
on, they get
just-
really good, especially after episode like 10-ish. And they're pretty short in the beginning. They get longer later on. So highly recommend. Give it a watch. It's very funny. And with that being said, let's move on to some Warhammer video games.
Who are you speaking to, Father?
Damn it, Krogo. Shall close that cavern in your skull before it vomits forth more agglomerations of vexing questions.
My skull yields no hollow rock formation, Father.
Starting us off at number 5 for Warhammer video games, we have Space Hulk Deathwing. Now, Space Hulk Deathwing is a fine kind of Left 4 Dead style game. You play as 4 separate Terminators, and that's what, you know, Deathwing is. I believe it's Dark Angels chapter, if I'm not particularly mistaken. But you start as Terminators, and you are exploring a Space Hulk. And Space Hulk is basically a big old derelict ship that's gone dark for God knows what reasons. Demons, Tyranids, who knows. So you kind of go through your little Left 4 Dead style thing, you kill a whole bunch of Tyranids, utilizing a whole bunch of weapons, and that's kind of your game. Personally, I don't think Space Hulk is a particularly amazing game. I think it's good for a good 10 to 15 hours of fun, and then it gets a little bit repetitive and you kind of get tired of it. But visually, it's very well done. The look of the plasma and your power swords and your flamers and the way the Tyranids attack you and all, it looks very good. I like the very Warhammer style aesthetic and the music, and they nail that pretty well. I do think it's a solid time for a short time, but I wouldn't buy it at any kind of full price. I'd get it if you could find it on sale for maybe $5 and grab a few Warhammer friends. I'd argue that it's at least worth a little bit of your time. I don't think it's particularly amazing, but like I said before, Warhammer games are not particularly amazing as a whole. So I'm kind of breezing through this one just because it's not a fantastic title, but
wonder if
it's
this is
it's
before
worth
Space
at least
Marine
trying,
too.
at least checking out a little bit.
imagine.
At number 4, we have Warhammer Space Marine. Now, Space Marine is a very fun game that I think people think a little bit too highly of. It's enjoyable and a little more streamlined. So if you're just a kind of a regular casual gamer, you want to play a fun game and you don't even care it's in the Warhammer universe, you probably still enjoy this. It's a third-person shooter combined with a kind of beat-em-up hack and slash. I guess it's more of a beat-em-up kind of style game where you go around blasting a whole bunch of orcs that have invaded some kind of Imperial planet, and you also smack them in the face with power swords and stuff. And it's pretty damn satisfying at times. The gameplay loop is by far the best part of this game. It does not ever get old to run up and plasma pistol 3 orcs in the face and then just start beating the
Space Marine
ass
2.
crap out of
Thinking about buying
them
it.
with a whole
Like,
bunch
man.
of Space Marine weapons. It is super fun,
spend
it's
$60
satisfying, and all of the sound effects really give you that nice, like, crunchy, hardcore Warhammer feel. At this point, you might as well just kind of have your
like
streamlined
PlayStation
action
2 or
game
some shit.
because it works out better with the lore. What's
it's on
the
PC,
job? Kill the alien. Cool. The orcs definitely steal the show, I'd say. There's a little bit of chaos in there as well, but the orcs are by far more fun. They have that stupid, like, over-the-top Cockney accent with a whole bunch of the green skins that it's always funny. The orc war boss in particular is actually, I think, a very, very fun character. I like him quite a bit.
Why aren't so easy to kill?
And overall, the game looks very good. I like the Gothic tech factory that they do. It's kind of hard to pull off, and they did a pretty good job.
Damn.
I think my only downside is that it does have a lot of
Demons,
the
if I've ever
early
seen any.
2000s syndrome when it comes to video games, and by that I mean extremely railroading linear areas and tons of QuickTime events. Tons. And if you've played the game, you know there are some really egregious QuickTime events in certain very important parts of the game that shall remain nameless. Overall, I think people put it a little bit too high on a pedestal. It's a very digestible game. It's good for a large amount of audiences, but it's not amazing. It's not wonderful. But it's kind of like, hey, this is what we're gonna get, and we're getting a pretty okay product. I'll take solid and streamlined over bad and faithful. For number 3, we have Battlefleet Gothic 1 and 2. Now, a lot of these games I haven't played a ton of, I'll be totally honest, because this kind of gameplay style isn't entirely my cup of tea. That being said, I am getting a lot of this recommendation via osmosis and asking various other Warhammer fans what they thought of the games. Personally, 2 sticks out the most because it opens with one of the biggest events in Warhammer history, which is the Fall of Cadia. And naturally, as a big Guard player myself, the Fall of Cadia is probably my favorite event in the Warhammer history. It kind of has like the Avengers Endgame feel to it, where, you know, if you go watch Endgame, we can probably all agree that Endgame isn't quite as good as Infinity War, but everyone's here. It's a big collaboration, and because of that, it feels very exciting and fun. Even if it's not perfectly well told, it's still very enjoyable. That's basically what the Fall of Cadia is. It has everything. You've got St. Celestine, Belisarius Cawl, Lord Castellan Creed, as well as a whole bunch of other major characters like Abaddon the Despoiler, Tor Garadon, the Imperial Fists, and let's not forget the resurrection of Rowboat Gurlaman with the help of Yvraine, and a mysterious man known as Trazyn the Infinite, which almost saved Cadia, which is a huge turn of events. Everyone was there, and it's a very exciting story, even if it's not always the best written. But it opens with that, and the cinematics for it are really good. The music, the narrator just is fantastic.
And for every one of those 10,000 years, the fortress world of Cadia has held the gate closed. An adamantium bastion, granted strength by flesh and bone, and seeded purpose by faith in the Emperor's holy light.
It's hilarious to hear her name off the warship vessel of the orcs, the Mordaka Prime, with just a completely straight face.
Survivors from the rechristened Mordaka Prime.
Overall, I'd say the story, especially the voice acting, is really good. In fact, that's a major point we'll talk about later, is the voice acting, because my final 2 games are also really good on that as well. However, this game is not about your average Warhammer stuff. It's not about little dudes on battlefield. This is a naval fleet battle, which I would say does go a little bit underappreciated. The naval battles of the 41st millennium are very important, and they have these giant Gothic spire ships for the Imperium. You've got the creepy Necron stuff, the high fleets of the Tyranids, the jumbled together mess that is orc war vehicles. It's very interesting to see this thing kind of fleshed out more. The gameplay, however, is much more of a tactical, slow-paced things about rotations and shields and all that kind of tact formations and things like that I'm not overly interested in. However, the music, the voice acting, and also the large swath of people you can play as between the Necrons and the Imperium and the Eldar and such does really make it a good recommendation, I'd argue. And everyone tells me it's also a wonderful game, so I wanted to go ahead and mention it because there aren't many great Warhammer games, and I do feel like this one in particular does deserve a recommendation. Moving on over, for number 2, we have the Dawn of War games. Now, I decided to combine the 2 of them into one slot because they're both the same group, and honestly, they're both kind of the same game, with some adjustments. Dawn of War is an RTS-style game, and it probably is the game genre that fits the Warhammer universe the best. It's a lot easier to balance out the insanity of all the different kinds of units when you have something like an RTS that allows you to do that, as opposed to, say, a first-person shooter or something. Now, Dawn of War 1 is a showing its age a little bit right now, but so are a lot of these games. And it's a more traditional RTS. You start off with commands, and you have workers, and you create all these different kinds of structures that provide to you resources, and that allows you to build units, go capture stuff, kill the enemy. Pretty standard RTS fare. It also boasts a pretty huge selection of armies, everything from the Guard to the Necrons to the Orcs, and then you have the Sisters, and there's a nice combination. For Dawn of War 2, however, it's still an RTS, but it's a lot more of a squad-based tactics game. There's no base building of any kind, and instead you control a major hero that can be revived, and you start building out different kinds of units and tech trees as you unlock more and more by capturing requisition points and trying to win in like a hold the objective style game, which I think does translate well now that we're in 9th edition Warhammer, and objective control is the major point of that game as well. Dawn of War 2 still looks incredible. It's like, it looks beautiful. I love the animations. I love the color scheme. It's got a little more bloom, but I don't know, I don't really mind that. And it's really nice to see all the different sound effects and the voice acting. And the voice acting of Dawn of War 1 and 2 is so stupidly over the top. It's so bombastically ridiculous that I cannot imagine being anything else. If it was in any other game, it wouldn't work. But when you've got voice acting like this, it's fantastic.
Orcs. And where there's one, there's 100 of them.
Come, show me what passes for fury among your misbegotten kind.
Witness your doom!
Yeah, this brings back some nostalgic with me.
Do the deaths of yours mean so much to you, alien? Are you that weak?
Our task here is too important to let one such as you derail it.
Did you say something, Eldar? I couldn't hear for all that hot air you's blowing.
Your infantilism is boundless, Orc.
And she still won't shut it.
You have made quite a name for yourself looting the petty lords of this subsector. You have also been known as a mercenary under their employ.
I? What's that to you? Why, your cat and your boys here. You're one of those inquisitive type thingies. I thought yous were more for killing orcs than paying them. I like your hat, by the way.
And I really do think it's one of the biggest highlights of it, because it really puts you in that universe. And you combine the really good music. It's wonderful. They both also have a wonderful modding scene as well. Dawn of War 1 has the Ultimate Apocalypse mod, which is basically like, hey, okay, in the game you had the Baneblade, now you've got 14 Baneblades. You've got the Hellhammer, the Shadow Sword, etc. Now you can have Emperor Titans and Imperial Knights. You can now build Deathstrike nuclear missiles, and the Tyranids are in there. Here's your Hierophant Bio Titan. Here's your Orc Stompa. You can just build this insane amount of units, and it's way more fleshed out in the actual lore, so you can grab basically anything you want. Whereas there's also a mod for Dawn of War 2 called, I believe, the Elite Mod, that I found out because I was watching a guy named Indrid Casts. He cast Dawn of War 2 like pro matches, which I think is really interesting because you have these like 3v3 battles with all these different factions, and some factions that I don't believe were actually in the game originally either, and they're a lot more fleshed out. They had a lot more intrigue and interest, and it really is nice to watch, actually. It's surprisingly deep for a game.
Okay, a little pause because a lot of info. It looks like we only have one more, so I feel like, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like from what I'm seeing, I mean, this video was 4 years ago, so it seems like since this time period they definitely have started to pick up a lot more. I think 4 years ago is before, that's before Henry Cavill had announced that they're going to start working on the cinematic universe. It's before Space Marines 2, where I feel like that got a lot of popularity. Like I said, my brother had brought that over and we were playing it. And then I thought about going to go buy that game afterwards, even without, jumping into Warhammer or seeing the secret level or any of that stuff. And then I seen the secret level, and I feel like everyone's kind of getting hype off that. I feel like it's still not low key, it's huge. There's millions of people who played it, who know about it. But like media wise, like he said, doesn't seem like there's too many more games. I want to know after this video though, if you guys can comment, are there other pieces of media that should be on this top 5 list now, between now and 4 years ago? Because I feel like he would, he could probably do like a part 2 or something now. I don't know how many pieces of media had dropped though. I know that, like I said, the one game and then secret level, so.
So he might be working on part 2 as we speak.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. That's what I'm wondering. So yeah, if you guys know about that, let us know, because yeah, we knew to this.
Like that, with the cover system and how you move characters and their special abilities, it's impressive. In fact, Dawn of War 1 actually has a pretty fantastic campaign. In fact, almost all the expansion packs have fantastic campaigns, besides one of them. Dawn of War 2 has some decent campaign moments, but Dawn of War 1 is really the good shit, alright? It has some really good characters, it has some really nice campaign moments, and it is by far worth playing. If you're curious about either of these games, I would recommend watching the Dawn of War 1 Ultimate Apocalypse review by Mandalore Gaming, or checking out Indrid casts for those Dawn of War 2 games as well. See which one's more your style. I think I like the look and the feel of Dawn of War 2 better, but I do enjoy the gameplay, like the more traditional RTS of Dawn of War 1, so I'm a little bit back and forth. But both games are pretty much the epitome of Warhammer content, to cover multiple factions, lots of different units, and get the most inclusive Warhammer game in terms of all the variety as you possibly can. Finally, last but not least, we have Warhammer Mechanicus. I would argue Mechanicus is the best Warhammer game currently on the market. Right now, it is #1. The only reason you might consider Dawn of War better is because it has more of the things you might want. Mechanicus is much more streamlined. You play as the Adeptus Mechanicus, and you are an Archmagos, Archmagos, I don't know how it's pronounced, Magos, and you have stumbled upon a Necron tomb world. And your job, go look at it, purify it, exterminate it, do whatever you can, and finish off the Necrons before they all wake up, and you gotta get the hell out of there. If I were to tell you a bullet point list of what makes it great, I can imagine all of you thinking to yourself, oh shit, why haven't I played this yet? Well, first off, it's an XCOM style game. So you have top-down view, moving your different units certain spaces, and they have special hits. However, unlike XCOM, no random chance. If you can shoot it, you're gonna hit it. It's a Darkest Dungeon style game where each encounter is moving through a little bit like section of the tomb world that has different special things that you have, like symbols and random encounters and the random chance kind of stuff that some people hate, but it doesn't really bug me that much. Some are good, some are bad. You build a party up, you've got a class-based system to upgrade your tech priests. You can bring different other kinds of minions like servitors, cataphrons, or maybe Skitarii vanguards and rangers. You've got all these different kinds of upgrades and new weapons you can unlock, and by working through the different people of your cohort, you can talk to one of the characters that's really big on saving her troops. You've got one guy who's the religious aspect of the Mechanicus, who constantly like speaks sermons and crap, and then you have the really techno diddly boy who's, or is that a girl? They all represent a different part of the Mechanicus, and it's just really impressive. And the sound design, and the visuals, and the music. Oh my god, the music.
Music is epic.
And even the Necrons are so well fleshed out. The Necrons are Necrons. They have reanimation protocols. They have scarabs that help heal people. They have Gauss and Tesla weaponry. Everything from your teeny little canoptic scarab to your Triarch Praetorian and a Destroyer Lord. There are some scary stuff in that goddamn tomb. And the Necrons do not fuck around. And in fact, in a weird way, it actually provides one of my favorite parts of the game, which is the voice acting.
Oh yeah, okay. They're kind of similar. It looks similar.
Now, for your main cohort, you don't have voice acting. You have like, I feel bad calling it gibberish because it's obviously way cooler than gibberish, but it's some kind of like, I don't know, low Gothic binary speaking or something. But that gives it, not only saves money on voice acting, but it has its own really nice flavor to it. But then soon you realize that the Necrons actually do have voice acting. The major Necron characters speak English.
What virtue do your kind have that makes you deserving of these worst?
And that got me thinking a little bit, like, the Mechanicus believe that flesh is weak, and they strip themselves of it the best they possibly can in order to, you know, transcend, to remove their weakness and everything from their actual flesh to even their mind. The Necrons were dragged into biotransference against their will and became robotic slaves. And they're the ones that speak English. In an odd turn of fate, the Mechanicus, because they don't speak English, are more alien than the Necrons are. Which I just think is so fucking cool. If I had to have any downsides to Mechanicus, it's that the opening is a bit too hard, and the ending is a bit too easy. The opening can be pretty brutal, and then as you get going, it becomes a little bit too easy and you start to steamroll. Honestly, it's an incredibly good game. It's the best Warhammer game on the market, both in terms of polish, being very faithful to the lore, and having great intrigue and design. Everyone should play it. Even if you don't care about Admech and Necrons, everyone should play it. I love it. Go check it out. Okay, and that's it for me. This has been 5 Warhammer games that I think you should really check out. This has been also some media. Definitely watch Event Horizon and Astartes if you haven't already. Those are such good little pieces of work. And text-to-speech is a little more of a commitment, but god damn it, it's worth it for the memes alone. All the games, you know, they're really hit or miss. I think some of you will definitely disagree with me on a couple decisions. I know a lot of people...
You know, if I have to be honest, I don't know if I'm playing any of those games. I'm 100% real. I don't know if I'm playing. I do like right now I'm playing Path of Exile 2. I don't know if you guys played that. And that's a fun game. So it's not like I don't like deep fantasy lore type of games. But I only can play so many at a time. You know what I mean? Like I'm playing Ruined King. I have or Path of Exile 2, and then but yeah, I only can play so many of those games at a time. I gotta play Marvel Rivals 2 for those of you. You know what I mean? I know that's a whole different category from this, but I gotta play that. So big comic guy. So yeah, man. I don't know.
No, I would not. I wouldn't. Just because of now. It's just what we got now. I wouldn't play those games. The graphics, just newer times.
Yeah.
Not trying to hate on it. I'm not. They did a remake of the
Space Marines.
The Space Marine.
That's what I was talking about too.
Yeah,
Space
I'll
Marines
play that
too.
shit.
And I mean, he kind of commentated on a Space Marine 1, so I wonder what his opinion would be on the new. I'm sure he probably has a video. If you guys know of him talking about that, that'd be cool. And I also saw he had a video talking about the new secret level short. Now that I think about it, so we're probably gonna have to dive into that and kind of get his take on those. Maybe we won't do a reaction. We might do that in our personal time. Just trying to like build up a little bit more on the lore, so we can actually kind of come into this just knowing when he went through and he was like listing off all his characters.
Right.
I was just like, oh man, I wish
just
I
lost
knew
in
what
the
he was.
sauce.
I was like,
I wasn't even gonna hurt my brain.
What he was talking about. But yeah, maybe we should have did the every faction, video before this one. But hey, you live and you learn, right? So if you guys could help us, guide us through this process, show us what we should be watching first, we wouldn't be in this mess. So really, it's y'all fault.
I want to go that far.
I'm gonna go ahead and pull that Uno reverse no accountability card, and I'm gonna blame y'all. No, but seriously, post in the comments, let us know. Where to go from here. We'd definitely appreciate it because I do love the lore. I love the world. I think it's great. I think it's different. Crazy.
Hardcore.
Yeah, very hardcore.
Parkour.
All right, man. Until next time, we appreciate you guys, and
we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, for sure. Do some homework.